Hello. I got my lights on here. Oh, look, I didn't even realize I have my top on. Well, I knew I had it on, but I totally didn't even think about it while I was doing the video. So I'm going to read today Life with Matt, Chapter 2, because I already read Chapter 1, and it's been a while since I read Chapter 2. The lights help me brighten up the words, so hopefully I can read it faster and better. Let's see. Chapter 2. Who is Matt? Matt is my son. He's now 29 years old. That's when I wrote the book. He's actually 32 now. That's crazy. He was born with hypothyroidism, among other things. From the time he was born, he has been on a slew of pharmaceutical drugs. Matt's delivery was difficult, and he came out covered in peach fuzz, like a preemie. In fact, the specialists believe he was a preemie, and did not believe me when I told him otherwise. Due to Matt's thyroid condition, he seemed to be very slow in some things, such as being alert. After he was born, he only grunted. They weighed him and let me hold him briefly, then took him to the NICU, the baby ICU. I didn't get to see him for the rest of the night. This was only the beginning of my life with Matt. Matt was a little slower at developing than normal. But I'm a big believer in the idea that every child develops differently. He did not crawl when he was supposed to, or hold himself up, or walk, or speak, or, well, anything really. Could it have been something he was born with, or something that happened due to the fluid in his head from the IV in the NICU? I had no clue. He did get to all the milestones, just at a different pace than normal. What is normal anyway? He had some speech difficulties and was quick to give up if you didn't understand initially. 3 tries, and that was all you got. Speech therapy helped a lot with this. At around 2.5, he was diagnosed with learning and motor skills disabilities, and diagnosed again when school began. He was 13 years old when he was diagnosed with epilepsy, when he began having seizures regularly. Do you know that the only accepted way to stop seizures in our society is through pharmaceutical medication? Are you aware of the dire side effects that medication has on a person? Let me tell you, this is an illness I would not want to see in any family. At 29, Matthew has now had epilepsy for over half his life. Sometimes he has more than 4 seizures a day, and at one point he had nothing but seizures all day long. He has been on every medication on the market, and all have had negative effects, some far worse than others. With each medication, eventually his body and mind became immune to them, and they no longer worked. Let's make sure you can see me. pause for a sec while I readjust. Matt is kind, helpful, funny, caring. I don't know if that light bugs you. Sorry if it does. Kind, caring. He has dreams just like anyone else does. He has goals, a life where he can live on his own with a wife and kids, with a restaurant he owns, with books he has written. He battles the demons of his illness and is way too often judged by others. Regularly, he is made fun of. He is unable to care for himself on a daily basis, and everyone always wants to know, what's the deal with Matt? Maybe this is better. What's the deal with Matt? If you only knew. I was at a barbecue one day at my sister's house when one of our friends called me over and introduced me to my sister's new friend. A new friend asked, "What's the deal with Matt?" She was, of course, unaware of who we were. She saw Matt sitting by himself reading a book and wondering, what is the deal with this young man? What's the deal with Matt? How do you explain everything you have been through with him? How do you let others know what he has been going through and still is going through every day? How do you tell someone who has no idea what it's like to be a mother to a child with disabilities or illness? How do you tell them who this amazing young man is? How do you tell someone in simple terms what the deal with Matt is? Do you tell them all the struggles? Do you tell them all the dramas? Do you tell them everything that you have tried? Do you tell them everything that has and hasn't worked? Do you tell them everything he is diagnosed with? Do you tell them about all the sleepless nights, the suicide attempts he's made, the fears, the trying to fit in, the trying to please, the almost dying by overdose? It's hard to understand that it's hard to understand that labels were used over and over because of his illness or his disabilities or both. Matt was always given a label. Labels were used to describe the conditions or behaviors. I never understood the whole thought process around labels. Everyone has something. And I understand that it's good to get diagnosed to help the person. But do all these drugs and behavioral categories really work? What about simply knowing that we are the same, but just made a little different? Sometimes all we need is love. I wish I could say this barbecue was the first I heard someone say, "What's the deal with Matt?" I wish I could say it would be the last. We are asked this question. Well, hopefully it will be. But it seems that people see only the difference of others, and right away they want to know what is going on. Is there curiosity because they want to help? Do they want to become friends with the other person? Do they want to give advice? Mostly, no, sadly. In fact, it's often just so they can judge, talk about, or even make fun of someone. Not always, but often. With that said, I have met some really nice people who have gone out of their way to do whatever they could to help out. Like my husband Mike, who met me when I was at wit's end with Matt's illness, epilepsy, and seizures. I had only just met Mike online and was telling him about my situation with Matt, and said that he wanted to and situation with Matt, and said he wanted to help. He did help, and 12 years later, he continues to do so every day. It's been 17 years now. Almost 17 years. Wait a minute. It has been 17 years. It is. Now I'm gonna get all messed up. Almost 17 years, right? Been married for 13 plus 4. Yeah, 17 years. Where am I? And has every day. Okay. It is very rare that someone who doesn't know Matt will go up to him and just start talking to him. I'm so very grateful that I have a loving family and extended family who will always say hello to Matt no matter what. Many will try to get him into a conversation which Matt we have with us determines whether they get a response. But they are loving and kind and accepting nonetheless. You see, it is really difficult to answer the question, what is the deal with Matt? It could be the suicide attempts. It could be the slow overdosing by doctors. It could be the lack of oxygen to his brain every time he has a seizure. While his face turns blue and all you can do as his parent is be there for him. Asking to help him, tell him come back to you. It could be the many times he has fallen and hurt his head. It could be the many labels he has been given that weigh him down. Maybe it is all the medication he has been on for all his life. One sec. You see, it is really difficult to answer the question, what is the deal with Matt? It could be, I read that already. I wish I could tell you who Matt was before all this happened. I wish you could have met him. Let's try that again. Start over. I wish I could tell you who Matt was before all this happened. I wish you could have met him back then. He always just wanted to have fun. He always wanted to help. And he always took the blame, even when it was not his fault. He didn't want to get anyone in trouble. In fact, he hated it so much that he would say something was his fault, even when it wasn't. He was kind, caring, funny, loving, friendly. Friendly and always protective of his sisters and his mom. I wish I could tell you exactly when all this changed, but I can't. So what's the deal with Matt? I answer this politely by saying something like, well, he is Matt. The other person thinks about it for a while. Yes, I know, but what is what is happening with him? Then I go into the situation with his labels and illness. Sometimes I tell them what I have learned so far about treatments, medications, herbal remedies, and sometimes I don't. What I would like to say to them is that Matt is the most heroic person I have ever met. He wakes up he wakes up every day knowing that he has no control over anything, and not his body, not his mind, not his emotions or thoughts. Although he is working on this now, he wakes up not knowing if he will remember how to eat, if he will remember his family, if he will be able to walk, talk, or function. He wakes up with no idea if he will have a seizure that day, that moment, or within an hour. He wakes up every morning and he tries to be grateful without thinking about what could happen. Matt is doing the best he can with what he has been given. It is something that so many of us take for granted daily. I used to get upset with people when they asked questions like this. Maybe it was my overprotectiveness, or maybe it was because they were seeing my son differently than themselves, or maybe it was because I was wishing they wouldn't see him differently at all. In fact, for a long time, I hated it when people saw him different. I hated the school for seeing him differently. I hated the doctors for seeing him that way. I hated the kids who bullied him because they saw him so different. Couldn't they see how truly awesome he was, just being himself? Wouldn't it be great if we just saw everyone as perfect, just being themselves? I think it all came down to Matt's looking normal, whatever that term really means. Outwardly, he doesn't look like there is anything wrong with him. Then he gets into one of his moods. It just seems like he's angry or upset, and many people don't know what to do with him. Many think he is just rude or mean, but he isn't, and he doesn't even realize he looks this way or is acting this way. We spend way too much time judging others about everything. It doesn't even matter what it is we are doing. It will be seen as wrong in someone's eyes. But if we just choose to love each other, if we taught love, just imagine where we could be in our society. Don't judge me because I am different. Love me because I am the same. I understand why people want to know about other people. For one, it helps them understand a little better, and understanding is a good thing. It also helps us gain distance from our own issues. So eventually, I start embracing the time when people want to know about Matt. I use it as a learning session for both me and them. I get to let them know what has worked for us so far, what we have tried and what hasn't worked. And I get to see how they feel or want, or what they think about all we have done for this guy to help him have the very best life possible. Yes, many people for all this young man's life have asked this question: what is the deal with Matt? Yes, I usually just answer it the same way each time, but they will never know what we have gone through to get to this point. They will not know what we were in they will not know that we were in the hospital overnight many times. They will not know that every time we tried something new, we didn't have the support of the heavily pharmaceutical specialist, but that our amazing family doctor backed us through everything. They will never know that all my life, all I ever wanted to be was a stay-home mom, caring for my babies, having to go to work when I had an ill child to care for just killed me. What's the deal with Matt? How can you explain everything he has gone through in his lifetime? The pain, the worry, the disappointment, the massive memory loss, all the tactics we have tried, all the boundless love that we have had for him through it all. That is the end of chapter 2. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like, share if you like. This message is for everybody. Don't judge other people. We don't know what they're going through. We don't know what they've gone through. Our lives ourselves, we've gone through our own. We've told our own stories. We don't know them. Don't judge people. You are amazing. I appreciate all your support. If you're interested in Life with Matt, I'll leave a link below and you can get a copy for yourself. I appreciate you. I love you. Make an amazing day, everybody.